computer. Okay, that's going. I edit it all. So if at any point you want to stop, you want to say something again, you have to sneeze or cough or whatever, and you want to stop, we can stop. And then I'll just cut that stuff out.
Okay.
Because I just do it all anyway. So you ready, honey?
Yeah.
This is supposed to be fun. So relax. It's all cash. Totally cash. Okay. We're all set. Levels are good. Okay. All right. Welcome. Welcome, everyone. This is Permission to Heal. I am Marcy Brockman, and I am very thrilled that you're here. Today, for our 8th episode, we have Natasha Link. Natasha is from Rushford, Minnesota. She is a freelance copywriter. She studied psychology in college and has worked a variety of different fields before starting her own business as a copywriter. She is genuine, straightforward, and sarcastic. Love that. She has an open mind and a fierce heart. She's raising 2 strong, sassy little girls amidst the chaos of life. Natasha still believes in magic. Love is her religion and writing is her church. She loves the way a good book makes her feel when she finishes it and hopes her words will inspire others in that way. I love reading a good book and feeling like the characters are my friends. Natasha is a prolific writer for Elephant Journal, among a few other publications, which is where I found her. She is I'm an avid reader of Elephant Journal and am a writer for that publication also. And her writing and the topics and the specificity of her prose speaks to me on a cellular level. And I had to invite her to be, to take part in our Permission to Heal family. So welcome, Natasha. I'm thrilled that you're here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Her message overall is to live as authentically as you can, to find yourself through healing and to embrace who you truly are. Loving yourself is the highest form of magic, and gratitude is the love language of the universe. Don't you just love that? Gratitude is the love language of the universe. She believes that each person has their own purpose, but we need courage to fulfill it. Her hope is that her words inspire others to find genuine strength and to go after their dreams, which really resonates with me because that is my message as well. The message of Permission to Land, my memoir and the companion journal, and really the mission of Permission to Heal. Loving yourself is the highest form of magic, and gratitude is the love language of the universe. I just love the way you write.
Thank you so much.
You seem to say exactly what I want to say in words that I hadn't thought of saying them in.
Oh, well, that's an amazing compliment. Admittedly, I'm a much better writer than I am speaker, so you'll have to bear with me here.
That's totally fine. I feel that way too, to an extent. I mean, although teaching has kind of bridged the gap there a little bit, but I like the idea that when you're writing, you have time to craft exactly what you want to say and how you want to say it. And when you're speaking, once it's out, it's out.
Yeah. Overall, I found it's really hard for people to even like themselves, let alone accept themselves and really fully love themselves. And not in a selfish way, but just to embrace their flaws and be comfortable in their own skin. And that's
It's a
what
very difficult thing.
I hope that more people can do, because it's so important. And just like being yourself and being okay with it, all your little quirks and all your imperfections, and because nobody's perfect, and it's this thought that we need to be perfect that makes everybody so unhappy.
Why do you think we have this need why do you think that we feel this need to be perfect? Like, where does that come from?
I think that how it's gotten so bad is social media, and everybody posting their highlight reel and everybody looking at that and comparing that to their reality, but they're not seeing the other people's reality. So they think,
Right.
oh my gosh, they're doing this, they're doing
Curated version of what they want you to see.
yeah. I think that that's making it worse. I think that's this ideal has been around for a long time, and people are always striving to be this certain image that's perpetuated in the media or, all over this image of who you should be. And it's like, nobody is that. That's not real.
Now, what's beautiful is the quirky, like you said, the idiosyncratic, the different weird peculiarities that make each of us unique and different from everyone else.
Exactly.
You wouldn't want, like my husband is a fish keeper, and literally about an hour ago, he just bought 13 of these identical fish. They're all called Harlequin resboras. They're so cute. I mean, they're all identical. And I like them because they school together. They all move the same way at the same time. I think it's very relaxing to look at, but I wouldn't want my friend group to be that way. I wouldn't want to be a schooling fish where I just looked like everyone else or behaved exactly like everyone else. What makes us unique is what makes us amazing and beautiful and flawed and a little crazy and a little sarcastic and a little brilliant. And, it's all of those things together that make up the package of who we are.
As human.
Schooling fish into that conversation. All right. So I usually start interviews or conversations, as I like to call them, with these 6 questions. I did give them to you ahead of time. I always cheat and give them to people because I find that people don't want to answer anything that they haven't seen before. I don't know if that's true. Anyway, so 6 questions. It depends. What 5 words would you use to describe yourself?
So now I can't remember what I said.
You don't have to remember what you said. I don't even have written down what you said.
Okay.
I want to know what you think now, because it might be different than what you said a week ago when you filled out the guest survey.
Right. Definitely genuine.
Okay. It isn't a test.
Oh my gosh. Genuine, sarcastic, kind, fun-loving, and a little chaotic. Yes.
We're going to get along great, Natasha. I love that. Loving, chaotic, absolutely. What's your favorite way to spend a day?
Gosh, my favorite way, so I mean, I'm a copywriter right now,
Right.
But I love when I get to just work on my own writing projects and I have no interruptions and the day is just for me, which doesn't happen much anymore because
you've got 2 young children. I would imagine quiet writing days are at a premium.
Right. So my little one is at daycare most of the time during the week, but my older one is home doing Zoom school.
Right.
So there's a lot of need for technical assistance or help with homework or just a reminder to do chores and not sit on TikTok all day. So there's a lot of interruptions, but when no one else is home and I get to just write whatever I want to write, those are the best days.
Lovely. Yeah, I when I'm writing and I'm in the zone, I don't like to be interrupted either. Right. Just totally gets rid of the flow and yes. Yeah. What is your favorite childhood memory?
So I have so many favorites, but thinking about it from the perspective of where I'm at now in my life, I always remember the very first time that somebody told me that I could be a writer, that they saw talent in my writing ability. I think it was 5th grade and it was my reading teacher.
Really?
And we had to write like a fake newspaper article based on a book we were reading and a scene in it. And it was so fun to do. And she loved it. And just that very first time that somebody tells you that you're good at something that you love doing.
Sure. That's like magic, Yeah. It's like external confirmation or permission to be able to love the thing that you love.
Yeah, definitely.
As a teacher, I'm a high school English teacher. So your memory triggers a myriad of thoughts in my head related to when I find a student who has that writing ability, that creative little spark, and really just runs with an assignment, I love that. And it turns me on as a teacher, and I know that it turns them on as a student. It's just like equal flow going in and out. It's awesome. Okay, what is your favorite meal?
Okay, so there's a restaurant in Rochester, Minnesota called Prescott's, and they make something called the creamy chicken basil,
Oh,
and it is phenomenal. I love that. It's made with like a cayenne pepper cream sauce and chicken and button mushrooms and Roma tomatoes and a Bourguignon cheese, and it's just delectable.
sounds fabulous.
I'm not a great cook. I'm very mediocre. I don't get real fancy in the kitchen.
Right.
So that is like the ultimate thing for me, is like, can we go there? And we've actually, even with the lockdown, ordered it because I'm like, I miss it so much.
Just go there and pick it up, or do they deliver?
Yeah.
Like,
They don't deliver.
no, probably not.
And I live like an hour from there, actually.
Oh, okay. So we really have to plan ahead for this meal.
Yeah.
This isn't a spur of the moment thing.
No, it's been one time in the past since March.
There's a restaurant that's not so far from here that makes this lovely like orecchiette pasta, which is like these little, they sort of look like little hats or little ears, and it's they make it in like a garlicky olive oil sauce with sauteed broccoli and sun-dried tomatoes and sweet Italian sausage, and it's heaven. I've tried to replicate it, and it's not that difficult to do, but there's something, maybe it's the sausage they use or the specific kind of tomato, I don't know. Whatever it is, their little special concoction is just fabulous.
Some secret ingredient that they would never tell you.
No, of course not. Of course not. There's a diner not so far from here that has been around since I was a little girl, that my kids loved going to, because when you sat down at their tables, as long as it wasn't breakfast time, they'd give you like a bowl of macaroni salad. You know, it's like noodles and some sort of white cold sauce with broccoli and peppers and some like chickpeas or whatever. And, you know, it's just a little something for the table instead of a bread basket kind of thing while you're figuring out what you want to order. So my kids always call this noodle salad, and they want to go to the diner with the noodles. I mean, they're in college and grad school now, so they don't say it like that. But when they were little, we want to go with the noodle salad. And for years, I've been trying to figure out what they put on this. It's not mayo. It's not Miracle Whip. It's not, there's a vinegary taste to it, but it doesn't taste. I've tried everything that I possibly can think of, and I can't replicate it, and they will not tell me. I've asked many times. Oh, well, just keep me coming back there. What is one piece of advice you would like to give your younger self?
If I could give my younger self advice, it would have been to never let that self-doubt into my mind, and to keep writing and to believe in myself, because for the longest time, I didn't write at all for over 10 years, probably. I didn't write it other than like in college, but I didn't write for myself between after college, and maybe like a year and a half ago. I wasn't really writing at all.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
How did you go from not writing at all to being so prolific and having a copywriting business?
It just kind of all came together, and that's why it feels so like meant to be, and like this is what I was always supposed to be doing. And I thought that originally as a child, I wanted to be a writer. I was going to be a writer, and then it's like everybody else gets in your head and makes you think that you have to do something else, and tries to give you advice, and you should do this. No, that you're not going to make money as a writer. You're gonna have to do something else, and then just write for fun as a hobby or whatever. And that, you know, life happens and things happen.
Sure.
And I think what was so hard is I went through some really tough stuff, you know, and so when I first tried writing again, all that was coming out was that tough stuff. And I was like, this is too hard and you need time to heal. And then when you're away from it a little bit, then you can write about it because it doesn't hurt as much. And
Sure.
and if your purpose is to write something that hopefully benefits someone else and sharing your stories that might touch somebody else and help them find that same healing. And so I honestly think I had to go through all that first before
Of course.
I could write.
Well, of course, you wouldn't have anything to write. You wouldn't have anything to write about.
Right.
I mean, there's always something, but what you do write about comes from a place of I've been there before. You know, I can give you this advice, or I can say this with certainty because I've felt this way, and there's a very keen sense of that in what it is that you do write. Okay, but before we get to that, let's do the sixth question. What is the one thing that you would most like to change about the world?
So hard to choose one thing.
I know, right?
I want to change everything about the world right now. I just wish that more people could find kindness and understanding for others and themselves. But there's not enough people who are kind to themselves. And I think those same people that are unkind to themselves are unkind to other people.
That's very profound. That if they were kinder to themselves, they would find it easier to be kind to others.
Yeah. Because if you are able to forgive yourself for your mistakes and your imperfections and know that we're all just human and flawed, and that's just the way it is sometimes.
All the time.
All the time.
all the time.
Then maybe you can be more kind and understanding to other people.
Very profound, Natasha. Very profound. Wow. Okay. So we're already here. Okay. So you didn't just hear that, did you?
No.
Okay. My phone did a weird thing.
Okay.
It just did a weird thing. Okay. So in one of the articles that you wrote recently called The 10 Qualities of a True, I'm going to curse here, sorry, 10 Qualities of a True Fucking Warrior and a Lifelong Partner. It really resonated with me on a very deep level. And I've almost in less than 20 days, I will be married 4 years to an amazing man named Michael, who meets every single one of these characteristics. And I don't think that any other person that I have ever been involved with prior to him would have met even 2 or 3 of them. I was just picking all the wrong people. And it seems to me that anybody who could come up with this list, and I'll just read the list itself to the audience who is not necessarily looking at this when I am. It is on the Elephant Journal. It's called The 10 Qualities of a True Fucking Warrior and Lifelong Partner. And here are the 10 qualities. He's putting in effort. He's consistent. He communicates clearly. He has a good sense of humor. He is secure in who he is. He has a healthy relationship with his mother. He is kind. He respects nature and animals. He gives your life balance, and he sees you and believes in you. And I do also want to say that this isn't just for heterosexual relationships. This applies to every possible LGBTQ variation of this as well. Anybody that you would consider a life partner, in my estimation, and clearly Natasha's estimation, need to have these 10 qualities, or at least 9 of them, you know. And it seems to me that anybody who could come up with this list and all the reasons why she puts behind, the reason she explains for each one of these characteristics, had to have gone through some shit.
Yeah.
So can you speak to this a little bit? How did you come up with this list?
Well, I just honestly, I was thinking about, again, like what I would write to my younger self had had I known better and maybe not wasted so much time dating all these wrong men.
Right.
And I thought about the things that I loved about my husband and the things that I maybe wouldn't have ever known that that's what I needed until I met him.
Right.
And so I just kind of, originally it was just going to be like something different, but it changed because the title came to me and I was like, okay, now I have to adjust this to make it fit this.
Sure.
But it was just originally going to apply for like the 10 things to make a relationship last, the 10 things, the 10 ingredients needed to make a relationship last. But then I kind of geared it more towards
the qualities of a person.
You know, I went through a lot of crap. I was in a really bad abusive relationship years ago, and
sorry.
It was more mental, emotional, psychological abusive than physical, although it did get physical at times.
I think, not to disqualify the physical, because physical abuse is horrible. Nobody should have to endure that. But I think in some respects, the invisibility of emotional abuse is worse because it's not obvious to anybody else that it's going on. And the victim who's being emotionally abused has to prove it and defend themselves, and
it's something that you don't even necessarily realize you're in until afterwards sometimes, or to when it gets to the point where it's so extreme, and because
you're in the thick of it,
it's so manipulative and there's so much gaslighting, and you doubt yourself and you become, I don't know, you just become like a shell of yourself. And I actually did write about that in one of my articles too.
Yeah.
But healing from that, it took a while. And then I continued to date the wrong kind of men. Even before that, it's just been like a lifelong battle, which I think happens to a lot of us.
Yeah. I mean, you have a certain preconceived notion of what your relationships are going to look like, whether it comes from your childhood, as mine did. We grow up with some sort of idea of what we think a relationship's going to look like, what we think a relationship's going to feel like, what we think we're going to feel like when we're in it. And then sometimes without us really even noticing what's going on, it just slowly becomes something unhealthy. And we still might even be comfortable with the unhealthy. Like I was very comfortable with the unhealthy because I thought that was what was supposed to be. I didn't realize how unhealthy it was until I reached a point where I couldn't figure out where I was in the whole thing. And you write about that too, not necessarily in this article, but you write about that too, where you're so busy people pleasing, so busy trying to be the person that you think others expect you to be or want you to be, that you lose touch with who you actually are, even to the point where you don't recognize yourself.
Definitely. I think that everybody does that to an extent, and especially with dating, because you're like, you want them to like you, so you try to assimilate to what they're looking for, and I finally got to a point where I was happy with who I was,
right,
and wasn't going to pretend to be anything else, and had gotten to a point where I was done with all the bullshit.
Exactly.
and it was the funniest thing is that when I met my husband, because he was younger than me, I didn't think it was going to be anything serious at all. I thought it was just going to be fun, and then it ended up being the love of my life. And
well, it could be, I mean, I'm just hearing this for the first time, but it could be that because you didn't think it was going to be serious, you allowed yourself to be more authentically Natasha, and therefore was a better girlfriend and a better partner than you would have been had you had a preconceived notion that it might have been something, and then you might have been more tempted to curate a version of yourself for him.
Right.
Does that make any sense?
I think you hit the nail on the head with that one, for sure. Definitely.
Yeah, I was married for 12 years in a relationship that was very unhealthy. And then I spent the next decade single and dating, and I was dating all sorts of men who were in varying degrees exactly like my ex-husband and exactly like my mom. And they were all the same type of person. And I, over and over and over and over again, was the same version of me. And each time I would find myself in a similar situation where I was doing all the people pleasing and I was trying to be somebody that I was not. And then suddenly I was resentful that I didn't get to be who I actually am. And, it just sets up this toxic thing because they think they're in a relationship with somebody who doesn't actually exist. And, it's this big mess. And then it was at some point in my late mid 40s, I was sitting across the table from a guy on a date, a first date. I met him like on a dating site. I forget which online dating site. And I realized that I didn't like him, that we had no chemistry. I was not interested in a freaking thing that was coming out of his mouth. And I didn't like the way I was perceiving him wanting me to be, which could have just been my crazy head and had nothing to do with what he was actually thinking. But it suddenly dawned on me that it wasn't important at all whether he liked me. The only thing that was important was whether I liked me with him.
Yeah.
Did I get to be myself? And was that accepted, or was that received well? And it totally changed the way I looked at dating after that.
Yeah. And, I think I kind of went through the same. I went through online dating too. That's actually how I met my husband.
Look, it works. I know a lot of couples that got together that way. My dad and my stepmom got together, well, it was more than 30 years ago, so it was before the internet, but through a personal ad in New York Magazine.
Yeah.
He answered her ad and they went out and they've been married for 30 some odd years. So, I mean, it works.
Yeah, it does. But I went through that same thing. Like you're dating and you're in, and you get to this point where you're just tired.
Yeah.
You're just tired. And you're like, you know what? This is me. Take it or leave it. I don't care anymore.
Right. It's not like you don't care, but you've gotten to the point where you're just beyond fashioning yourself for someone else.
Yeah.
You like yourself enough, you're comfortable enough with who you are, where you're like, this is me. In all of my glory and all of my flaws and all of my idiosyncratic weirdness, this is me. And I love that I think one of my favorite things about my husband is that he makes me laugh like I've never laughed ever. He just says we have the same quirky, silly, ridiculous, weird sense of humor. And he could just say one little offhanded thing and I'm doubled over hysterical laughing. I love that. And his ability to buoy me up. He believes in me even when I don't believe in me. And when I'm having doubts about what I'm doing or the direction I'm taking, he's always the one who's there, giving me applause and rooting for me and pushing me forward. And I just adore him. And it took me a long time to figure out my way here.
Yeah. I think it takes a lot of us a long time to get here.
Yeah. I think this is, I don't know if it's a social media thing or it's the fact that we can stream any movie or TV show or anything that we ever want to see. We don't have to wait for anything anymore. You can order something on Amazon and have it delivered in some cases later that day or the next day. I don't think that as a culture, we know what it's like to wait for things anymore. I think we're losing the ability to wait for long-term gratification, to wait for something to grow or to evolve or to heal or to fix itself. Or I think that we want what we want and we want it now. And too many of us rush and push things and then wind up in situations where we don't really know who the other person is.
Yeah.
You know, like I have a former student of mine who was engaged at a very young age. She just broke up with this guy a few months ago, and she thought he was everything that she would ever want, but they hadn't known each other very long. And so over the course of the time that they were engaged, more of his personality characteristics came out, and she slowly started to see that those things in him that she might have noticed before they got engaged had she actually not jumped in prematurely, you know. And then she had to break off the engagement, which was harder than just breaking up with the boyfriend, but at least they didn't get married, you know.
Yeah.
I think that people do that very quickly, and when they jump into a relationship, because the beginning part of it, that honeymoon phase, feels so good, and you've got all the endorphins going, and you know, you're just the chemistry, and you're all over each other, and you can't keep your hands off each other, and everything that they say is fabulous and wonderful, you know, that stage.
Yes.
And at that stage you could think anybody was fabulous, you know. And if you let yourself get too deep into a relationship during that stage, you don't know what you're going to wind up with when the honeymoon stage is over and you're sort of in that messy middle, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it would behoove anybody getting into a serious relationship to wait their way through the messy middle before committing.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't know how you're going to handle the hard things in life together if you rush. And hard things are always going to come.
Right.
That's given. And you have to be able to get through those things together. And you don't know that if you've been dating 6 months. I really don't think you do. So
No, I agree. Now, I was only dating my husband for 6 months when I proposed to him.
You proposed to him?
I asked him out first, and I proposed to him, and then we got married less than a year after we both said I love you. But the caveat to this is that we had been friends since 1987. So
wow.
we'd been friends for 29 years.
Oh, wow.
So at that point, I think I knew him enough and he knew me enough where only dating 6 months really didn't matter, you know, because we had 3 decades to get to know one another. There were no secrets in the closet that we didn't know about, you know. At that point, he is who he is and I am who I, you know. He was 50 and I was 48 when we started dating. So at that point.
I love that you proposed. I love hearing that. I threatened.
What did you say?
I just was like, I don't even remember, but I was just like, if you don't do this soon, I'm going to have to do it.
We were, I love that. We were watching a movie with Ryan Reynolds called Definitely Maybe.
Mm.
And he plays a divorcing dad who's talking to his daughter, who I believe is played by Abigail Breslin. And she wants to know why her parents are getting divorced. And he's got no easy answer. And he says that romance is difficult and subtle and nuanced. And there's all sorts of stuff. And she didn't understand. She was like 8 or 9, maybe 10 years old or something. And so the whole movie is him explaining who his 3 serious girlfriends were after college. And she was supposed to pick out which one of those, based on his description, which one wound up being her mother. And it was just a delightful, wonderful movie. But Ryan Reynolds' character, proposes to all of the women. And it's just charming and sweet. And I love rom-coms anyway. And so my husband and I, or my boyfriend at the time, and I were watching, and he said, you know, I proposed to 2 women in my life. And the next time I get married, I want to be the one that's proposed to. And I was like, I could do that. Like, I knew he was going to say yes, but I'm like, I could totally do that. That would be fun. And I knew that he would have eventually proposed to me, but I didn't like his timeline. You know, I wanted to do it faster. And I
Yeah.
knew he was going to wait at least until the following spring. And it was like July. And I was like, no, I want to do it now. So I made him a YouTube video and I took him out to dinner, and the
That's
rest is
cute.
history. It's
We're
cute.
so impatient, aren't we?
Well, when I told my dad, I called my father on the phone and I said, Michael said, yes. Oh, no, Michael and I are engaged. And he says, oh my God, that's so wonderful. How did he ask? And I'm like, well, he didn't. I did. And there was silence. And I got the judgmental, really? Is this a real thing? Can I tell people? Would he have asked you anyway? Like he just couldn't figure out how to feel about this. And it was just too outside his wheelhouse, his comfort zone, And I said, aren't you proud of the fact that you raised a daughter who knows her own mind, who knows what she wants, and is willing to go after it and to go ask for it rather than just sit in the shadows and wait for it passively to come to her? And he thought about it for a second, and he was like, yeah, that is better. No shit. Yes, of course. So this brings us to the next article. Perfect segue. I could not have created one better myself. That really just speaks to so many things. It's called Your Healing is in Your Hands. Be Your Own Damn Hero. I couldn't have said it better. Couldn't have said it better, because in this world, if there's anything that I have learned, it's that we ourselves are responsible for our happiness. We're responsible for our healing. We're responsible for every damn thing we think, every damn thing we do. And if we wait for anyone else to do it for us, we'll be waiting forever.
So true. It's so true. I actually have an article that I wrote called Stop Being Afraid of Happiness that is on Medium.
Oh, I'll have to look that one up.
But I actually was thinking about rewriting it for Elephant too, just to reach a larger audience. But it's so important. Everybody is looking for happiness outside of themselves, and you can't do that. You can't find it. That's not real happiness.
No.
And along with that comes healing. Like you're not in control of what happens to you, and bad things are going to happen to you sometimes that you had no control over. But healing,
like a global pandemic.
right? But your healing from those things is your responsibility, and nobody else's. Like nobody else can fix you. And
absolutely.
And so many people are just like waiting for somebody else to make them happy, or waiting for something to magically fix them and make them okay. And they have to do that work. No one else can do that for them.
Absolutely. It's a lesson my mother, my poor, sweet, darling, crazy mother, never learned. She wanted her parents to fix her. She wanted her first husband, who was my dad, to fix her. She wanted her second husband to fix her. And no matter what I said to her, or therapists said to her, or her friends said to her, she didn't get that she was responsible for her own happiness, that she was responsible for her own healing, and that nobody could do it for her. And she was always looking to other people around her to make her happy, and was angry at us because we failed, but we had no shot at ever succeeding. It was just, she was miserable because I couldn't make her happy. And I was miserable about myself because I couldn't make her happy. And once I learned to make myself happy and to stop people pleasing, because that wasn't getting me anywhere, I absolved myself of the guilt over failing to make her happy. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody, but it made clear sense to me. I'm going to read a little bit of what you wrote, if you mind me reading, but you to you. You wrote, healing is not linear. I say this all the time. Wrote it in my book. Totally all the time. It's not linear. Sometimes we have to take a few steps back before we can navigate the way forward again. We all find ourselves faltering occasionally. We are simply human and beautifully flawed, continuously learning and growing and evolving. Give yourself a little bit of grace. Then turn it around and fight against the part of you that wants to give up. No one else can save you from the chaos of your own mind. Sometimes you got to be your own goddamn hero. Remind yourself that you have made it through so much worse than this. You are fierce, you are brave, you are unstoppable. A freaking man, baby. Love that. You will come out on the other side of this too. Unfortunately, we can't always prevent bad things from happening, but we must endure every single time. Love that. Love that. It's very long, but I would like to get it tattooed on my shoulder or something. That's just freaking awesome. No one can save you from the chaos of your own mind. You got to be your own goddamn hero.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's important that people give themselves that grace, because things are going to happen that trigger you and those old wounds. And recently this actually just happened to me. And I'm on Twitter and I have quite a big following on there. And it seems like once a week somebody trolls me and like in an attacking way. And I shouldn't let it get to me, but I do. And it like ruins my whole night because I'm just like, why would someone say that to me? And I'm so sensitive, even though I have thick skin and I've been through a lot. And in that moment, I'm just like,
I totally get that.
And I realized the other day why it bothered me so much is because it's triggering, and it reminds me of that really bad relationship I was in, and those feelings come back up. So it wasn't even what necessarily that person said. It was that old wound ripping apart, and that's what got to me. And then realizing that that's what bothered me made it like so much easier to handle. And I think so many people are unaware of their triggers or why they feel so bad when certain things happen.
And I think by recognizing the trigger and allowing yourself to feel again the pain of that old wound helps you heal over that wound just a little bit more. And each time we allow ourselves to go back and revisit, not necessarily ruminate over and over again like a hamster on a hamster wheel where you're not allowing yourself to move on and you're just thinking about it over and over again. That's not what I mean. But going back and remembering what that felt like and realizing that you've improved, you're happier, you've healed yourself a lot of the way, that you've learned so much about yourself and the world and et cetera, that you have grown since then, reminds us of how strong we really are. It increases the awareness of our own resilience and makes us feel more powerful, and diminishes then the impact of that past pain, so that maybe next time we're not triggered as deeply.
Right. Yeah. There's layers and layers and layers to healing.
Yeah, absolutely. And remembering these things and the pain and the struggle and the path to healing is really where empathy is born. I think you were talking before about kindness to ourselves and kindness to others. And I think that comes from recognizing our resilience from pain, recognizing that we all, although circumstances might be different between people, the basic human emotions that are underpinning all of them and that is all shared, that is all common between us. And so, you might have experienced your pain differently than mine, but ultimately we have the same feelings of sensitivity, of vulnerability, of feeling hurt or weakened or dismayed or whatever the word is, when someone hurts us or attacks us or points points a dark light. I don't know if that makes any sense. Awareness over some of our weaknesses or perceived weaknesses or something. Do you agree?
Yeah, I definitely agree. And that's why some of us are so forgiving and understanding and compassionate. And we understand that when someone else is going through something, they're not the best version of themselves. And we give them that grace. And I don't know why some people are missing that. And because everybody experiences pain, no one gets out of life without that experience. But I think a lot of people aren't doing the work of healing, and they're not realizing how strong they are.
No.
Because you have to be able to look at an experience and think, what did I learn? What growth did I gain from this? Instead of just that victim mentality, like this was horrible and it broke me. You can feel that sometimes, but you can't live there. You have to be able to pull yourself out of it and like, what was this trying to teach me? What did I need to learn?
Have a deeper understanding for those emotions. That everything that happens to us ultimately does happen for us. You wrote this to help us become who we are meant to be. We are intended to gain strength, resilience, and determination from our hardships that steel our spine. I love that. Put steel in our spine, gives us the tenacity required to move mountains, and it is not a byproduct of an easy life. That, I think, is something that we all need to really impart to our children.
Yeah.
You know? I think that we all want to protect our kids as parents, and we don't want them to suffer. And did I lose you?
Nope. My phone just said low battery. So
Oh, do you need a plug?
I'm going to grab the charger. Sorry.
Okay.
Amazing how quick that goes. I had it fully charged.
I found with the last iOS update on my iPhone that the battery doesn't last nearly as long as it did before.
All right. We are plugged in. Sorry.
Okay, no worries. I figure out what the heck we were just saying.
Teaching our children.
Oh, yes. So, yeah, I think it's really important that as parents, we teach our children that life isn't supposed to be easy. You know, we want to protect them, and we don't want them to go through pain, and we don't want them to feel alone or excluded or like they don't belong. And we want them to feel all happy and light and wonderful. But if we protect them from all of those things, then they won't learn resilience, and they won't grow up with steel in their spine. They won't be able to really handle the things that are the realities of life.
Right. And I think that has become a serious issue in society today. I didn't have an easy childhood. And I look at my daughters and I feel like they are going to have a somewhat easy childhood, and I worry, and I think of other people I know, and it's like everything just totally breaks them, like one little thing, like because they've never experienced any adversity, they don't know how to handle it.
Right.
And I'm like, oh gosh, how do you give them just enough?
For the 2-year-old, when she spills her ice cream on the floor, that's trauma. There's trauma in stages. We don't necessarily need catastrophic trauma, but little subtle life disappointments. No, you cannot have dessert for breakfast. You have to wait till Christmas morning to open up your presents, whatever, like just anything that I think staves off the immediate gratification that a small child wants, teaches them a little bit of resilience. Things don't have to be bad. And I think that the normal growing pains and the normal social things that go on in school is probably more than enough.
Probably. Yeah.
I think the important thing is teaching them, and I've tried to do this with my own kids and with my students is teaching them emotional literacy. How that they're teaching them that their feelings are okay, that their feelings are fine and acceptable and a part of life. Feelings are meant to be felt, hence they're called feelings, and help them name what it is they're feeling. So they grow up being able to identify how they feel. And I think that it becomes much less overwhelming and much more manageable to feel the breadth of human emotions when we feel like we're not being battered around by them, that we have some measure of control, that we don't have to live and ruminate and stay in that same feeling, but that we have, oh, I recognize this. I feel dejected, or I feel like I'm not included and I feel left out. I know what this feeling is like. So when I feel this way, these are the things that I can do to make myself feel better. I can go hang out with mom. I can hang out with my big sister. I can go and play a video game, or I can go write in my journal. I can play my guitar or go bake a cake, or, whatever, like something that gives us passion and that feeds our own souls. I think when we learn positive compensation, I don't think that's the right word I'm looking for, but when we find things, behaviors that we can engage in that align with who we are, then we can compensate for some of those negative experiences. And that in itself is resilience right there.
Yeah. And honestly, they have it a little bit worse than we did as kids today.
We didn't have social media.
Because
I knew that's what you were going to say.
Yeah, because we could get away from it. Like we could have the worst day ever at school, but we could go home and no one could touch us.
Exactly. I'm home, my home base. The teasing had to stop, but now it goes on 24/7.
Yeah. It's worse. It's worse on all these different forms. They have Snapchat, they have TikTok, they have Instagram, and it's so.
And then they've got Finsters. Then they've got fake Instagram pages that their parents don't know about. So my daughter's got an Instagram page that she allows me to see what she posts. And I've known since she was like 14 or so on that she had a fake Instagram page where she posts the things that her friends see, but that mom's not allowed to see.
Oh God, I didn't even know about this.
They call them Finsters. And I don't know how you find them. I just heard about it because of my students. I heard them saying it and I'm like, what's a Finsta? And then they told me and I'm like, oh, you know what? I bet my daughter has one of those. And then I just asked her point blank and she's like, yeah, I've got one. And no, you can't be a part of it. She's 19. She tells me everything. So I think. And then I find out last night, December, whatever, I find out that she's got a TikTok account that she won't let me follow, but a TikTok account that she does let me follow. And I'm like, what are you posting that I don't know about? She's like, trust me, there're just some things you don't want to see. Okay. I get it. We all have our privacy, I suppose. There's some things about me that she doesn't want to know either. And that's the way it should be, I suppose.
True.
But I agree with you about the social media. I think that people get away with saying things that they would never say to your face, like those people who were mean to you on Twitter. I would pretty much like bet the whole farm, so to speak, that none of those people who say mean things to you on Twitter would say those same things to your face.
Oh, never.
But because they're anonymous and you don't know who, QXR487 is, they're free to say whatever it is they want to say, which also means that you have to discount it completely and not let it into your soul or psyche or heart, because they're just cowards who are just miserable and they have to spread misery.
Right.
Haters will hate. Leave them alone.
That's what I'm trying to realize, is that it could be worse. I could be them.
Exactly. Exactly. I think that as a country, I don't know if it's a global thing, but I do know that people have a very diminished ability to politely listen to other people's opinions when they are different from theirs. That
It's
we've
horrible. It is global.
lost. It is a global thing. I don't know. But we've lost the ability to have a discussion, a polite, respectful, intelligent discussion when we're on the opposite sides of an issue.
Yeah.
It immediately gets intense and emotional, antagonistic, and, discrediting and snide and obnoxious. And I think we need to fix that, because I don't think we're ever going to fix what's wrong with the world until we can come together and have those kinds of conversations.
It's 100% true. And the hardest part is you feel, even if you're in the middle of an issue, that you can't say anything without getting attacked.
Right.
If
Well,
you can
because
see,
we always blame the victims in these situations too. So
right, but you feel like even if you can see some of valid points from side A and some valid points from side B, you're going to get lit on fire by both.
right.
You just can't win.
I think the only way that we lose, though, is if we don't keep trying.
Yeah.
I think we have to keep trying to have those conversations and being as real and honest and authentic as possible with ourselves and with the people we're talking to in order to get anywhere. And this, I think, stands for family relationships as well as political relationships, as well as, community relationships, educational relationships. I think that it's applicable everywhere, that we just have to keep talking, or we're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
Stories heal. Sharing heals.
Yeah, it does.
Absolutely. So do you have any last, sounds so final when I phrase it like that, but any wisdom or philosophy or Happy New Year messages or something you want to leave the listeners with before we go?
I hope that going into 2021, things look a lot brighter, and we can hopefully, as a society, come back together and work on a way forward, and finding solutions to all these issues that came up this year.
Yeah.
Like you said, we have to keep having those conversations, but I mean, we're still so torn apart, and we need to find our way back together, and we need to realize that we are all connected and we are all part of one thing.
Big
And
human family.
we need to find that unity, or it's not going to work.
No. Well, we're just going to keep destroying ourselves.
Yep. And the planet.
And the planet. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that's a whole other episode. Healing the planet.
Right.
Well, thank you very much for being here, Natasha. I'm thrilled that we were able to have this conversation.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. It was fun.
I'm glad. Our pleasure.